Good morning, everybody. My name is Jackie Rowe, and I'm one of the marketing managers here at Cisco Meraki. And today I'm going to take you through an introduction to Cisco's Enterprise Mobility Management Platform. We also call that Systems Manager, so if you hear me using those terms interchangeably, that's why. While we wait for the last few people to join the webinar today, I'm going to take a quick moment to look at the agenda. We're first going to start off with an introduction to Cisco Meraki for those of you who might not be too familiar with the company or the product portfolio that we have on offer. Then we're going to actually dive in straight to Enterprise Mobility Management, explain exactly what that really means, and then introduce Systems Manager, which is Cisco's Meraki's solution to that. Then we're going to spend the majority of today's time in a live product demonstration, showing you the features and the functionalities of the system. And then we're going to have some time throughout today's session for Q&A. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them into the Q&A or the chat box of WebEx, and I'll be periodically taking a look at them and answering them out loud for the group today. I'm also pleased to announce that for all the qualified IT professionals in attendance today, we will be giving out 20 licenses, so 20 3-year licenses for Systems Manager. In order to receive those Systems Manager license, you do need to be an IT professional, and you do need to confirm your address and your information with your Meraki representative. Now, you can find your eligibility details at meraki.cisco.com/free-SM. So that's free Systems Manager, free SM. And you can find your representative contact details in the reminder email for today's webinar, or you can reach out at meraki.cisco.com/contact. Either way will work just fine, but we do need to have a quick chat with you before we click OK for those licenses, just to make sure that we meet all of the eligibility details. Let's go ahead and dive in now. A little bit about Meraki, who we are and what we do. We're a 100% cloud-managed IT company. So what does that really mean? When you take a look at the left-hand side there, we see this nice little graphic that has 6 products fanning out at the bottom of that. So those 6 product lines, we have our indoor and outdoor access points. These are 802.11 AC Wave 2 devices. We have our UTM security appliances. These do the job of about 6 different devices all in one. We have our access and aggregation switches. We have our communications portfolio, Systems Manager or Enterprise Mobility Management, which I'm going to be talking to you about today in more depth, and then our security cameras, which are the latest addition to our product portfolio. Now, all 6 of these products are actually in constant communication with the cloud, which is doing the heavy lifting of monitoring and managing all of that complex information, and then giving it to you in a very easy to understand way in your dashboard. So what exactly is Dashboard? Well, Dashboard is your browser-based management tool. Anywhere you are in the world, if you have internet access, you can log into dashboard.meraki.com or open up the app if you have it downloaded on your mobile device, and you can start having visibility into your network no matter where you are and no matter where that network is deployed. So, for example, when we get into the demonstration today, I'm sitting in our London office here in Moorgate in Finsbury Square, and we're going to be taking a look at the Systems Manager network that we have set up in San Francisco. So I'm nowhere near that office. In fact, I'm about a 14-hour journey if I wanted to get from here to there right now. And so it's not that simple for me to just take a look at what's going on. However, Systems Manager and Meraki Dashboard allow you to do that very, very easily. So you can monitor, you can manage, you can configure, you can have full visibility and granular control. Now, Meraki is a leader in cloud-managed IT. We have over 230,000 unique customers and over 3 million devices online and over 9 million managed mobile devices online at any given time. So what are we trying to solve here with Meraki? Well, part of my job is actually talking with our customers every single week. And when I talk to them, I hear about a lot of the challenges that they were facing before they switched over to Meraki, and then we can talk about the solutions that they've now found. So I've boiled down 3 of the top challenges that I hear about most often on this particular page. So the first one here is very pertinent to Systems Manager, and that's the fact that there are billions of mobile devices in the world today. Now, the last survey I saw said the average person carried between 3 to 5 smart devices per person. Now, that seems like quite a lot, but when you start thinking about what those devices are, it no longer seems so astronomical. So, for example, you might have a work phone, you might have a personal phone, you might have a work laptop, You might have a personal laptop. You might have a tablet. You might have an e-reader. And all of a sudden, you start thinking of all of these different devices. It no longer seems that unrealistic to have these many devices out into the world today. And the thing about those devices that make it even more challenging for IT professionals is that people expect them to work no matter where they are and no matter what they're doing. So for example, whether you're walking down the street and pop into a coffee shop, or whether you're going to visit a customer on site or a partner on site, you simply expect your network devices, or their network devices, sorry, to allow your devices to work. And that's it. So that creates a lot of interesting challenges for IT teams though, because you have guests coming into a network and you want to make sure that guests are not having access to secure confidential information. You have employees coming into networks that want to use their own personal devices in order to accomplish their day-to-day activities. But again, you want to make sure that those devices, while they're able to access confidential or important information, aren't able to have their devices hacked, or you want to make sure that their devices are secure enough to have access to that information. And so one thing that is really important with the Meraki Systems Manager solution is an ongoing security posturing of those devices. So for example, when you have a user walk into your network saying, I want to use my own device to do my work today, well, you can have them self-enroll in Systems Manager, and then Systems Manager is going to do a security check of their device and say, you know what, it does meet all of your security requirements, so you can go ahead and add this user to the network and allow them to access confidential information. Or conversely, this device might be mostly secure, but you know what, it doesn't have a passcode on it. So actually, we're not going to enable this device to access our confidential resources because we cannot guarantee security of that device. And an ongoing security posture. So as things on the device change, you can add or block certain restrictions on that particular device. So there's a lot of built-in functionality there that we're going to dive into in the demo. The next thing you see relies on is high-def and rich media. And so on the network itself, you can actually do things like layer 7 application traffic shaping, and you can prioritize certain levels of bandwidth on the network. And then what you can do on the device itself is start going in and saying, you know what, I'm going to automatically install certain applications on these devices, applications that have been deemed mission critical and that our employees say that they need to use for collaboration or for accomplishing their day-to-day activities. So you can automatically load those devices, load those applications onto user devices, and maybe even restrict access to other applications or other uses on that device so you can actually streamline the effectiveness of what's going on. Because to be honest, most of today's business doesn't necessarily happen in person, face-to-face. It happens digitally, face-to-face. So things like those video and rich media streaming applications. Now, the last challenge here is a lot of IT professionals saying that they're running into situations where their CEO or their board of directors is saying the IT team doesn't, we cannot provide this amount of budget for the IT team. However, if the IT team can do more value for the business, well, then we can make different considerations. Then we might be able to actually have more budget available. Or even if there's not more budget available, simply more is being asked of the IT teams. They're being asked to actually add value to the organization, not just keeping the lights on. And so with Meraki, you actually have deep visibility into not just how your network is configured, but also how it's being used. And then you can relay this information back to either marketing teams. So if you want to understand how guests are using the network, well, then you can start relaying that information back and saying, you know what, we're seeing a lot of guests on the network. This is how many. This is what they're doing. These are the applications that they're going towards. This is where they're congregating in the building. If you have wireless access points deployed, you can see that via triangulation. You can also use this for business purposes with employees. So, for example, let's say that you've been asked to deploy 3 applications out to your employees. Well, you might deploy them and then do an audit 2-3 months away and say, all right, let's take a look at those 3. Well, one of them we tried out, but we didn't really think it was that important. And sure enough, nobody's really using it, and we're actually wasting a bit of money on it. So what we can do is reclaim that budget and use it for something else and stop pouring money into something that no one's using. This other application Maybe it actually is really important to use, and users are using it, and that's great, and we can report back that users are actually being more productive because they're using this application. And then that third application, maybe you see that no one is using it, but you do think it's really important, and so it allows you to go back through and say, why aren't people using this? It allows you to be more analytical about it. Do you need to retrain them? Do you need to actually do some more internal marketing where you can tell employees why this application is great and why they should be using it? So there's a lot of different needs and challenges that IT teams are facing these days. And with Meraki, we're trying to provide solutions from the most complex to the most simple challenges that we see on a day-to-day basis. Now, all the things that I just talked about from Systems Manager are available out of the box, and that's the beauty of it. So there's no hardware, there's no additional complexity. All it is one profile that lives on the device itself, and that's it. It's a background profile, and it's a very minimal use on that device. Now, one of the things that we're quite proud of here at Meraki is the rapid feature velocity that we have. So every quarter, we are releasing new firmware updates, new features across our entire product portfolio. So what we see on the screen here are just our 4 main product portfolios. So we don't have the communications or the security cameras on here, but these are our main 4 product lines. So wireless switching, security, and at the top there, Systems Manager. And this is a very, very small snapshot of the products and the features that we have released over the years to actually make these products more robust as time goes on. So let's say hypothetically you invest with Systems Manager today, but then next week we release a groundbreaking new feature for Systems Manager. You're not going to miss out. Instead, you'll receive a notification in your dashboard, in your email, etc., letting you know there's a new feature and simply telling you how you can put it into effect to start benefiting from it. That's it. That's as easy as it is. And we can track those feature launches in Dashboard as well, so you never have to worry if you're going to miss out on one of those. You can always look back and say, actually, maybe that feature didn't apply to me then, but it does now. How do I use that? So there's a lot of great things built in here. All right, so we've done a nice overview of Meraki, but let's talk a little bit more about EMM. What is EMM? Well, it's Enterprise Mobility Management, and at its core, EMM is comprised of 4 main things. So at the top here, we have Mobile Application Management. So it's the ability to do what that says. It says on the tin. You're actually going to be able to manage all the different applications that are on the device and the applications that you want to be on the device, whether that's applications that people have downloaded on their own, or whether it's applications that you want to purchase or download from a corporate level and then push out to those devices. So that's application management. It's just managing what type of applications are on those devices. Then we have, going around counterclockwise, we have mobile device management. That is one of the original things here that we have from EMM. So mobile device management is simply taking a device and being able to manage that device. Sounds pretty simple. So here we're talking about things like geolocation, where we're able to understand where the device is. We're able to set restrictions on the device. So we can say yes or no to the use of camera, yes or no to downloading new applications. We can set content filtering. We can lock a device into a single application. So you're actually controlling physically how that device is operating. Then we have things like mobile content management. And this is where we can push content like PDFs or other types of ebooks and textbooks out to devices. So you can actually start managing the type of content that is being held on the devices. Incredibly useful for education, incredibly useful for, let's say, factories or manufacturing, or even mobile point of sale systems and things like that. And the last one here is mobile identity. It's the ability for that device to understand who has unlocked it, who's actually using that device, and then cater that device to the needs of that person. So for example, let's say you have somebody at the front desk that has this device and they've unlocked it. Well, the front desk only needs that device for one thing, and that's to log people in to the company. And so it can lock the device down into a single login application. Then let's say that device later on moves to a different person. And now that other person needs that device for a point of sale system, but they also need to provide some information to clients. So it can pull up content that's been pushed out to the device. Maybe it's data sheets, maybe it's information on a product, but then also can have access to a limited number of applications, like a mobile point of sale system, etc. So you get the idea. It moves around. And the interesting thing about this is that it's not just who has the device. It's also what is the state of that device. So for example, let's say we have a device, we're using it for work, and we have things like our email program on there, we have an Exchange server, we have access to other confidential materials, and then all of a sudden on that device we see something happened and a Trojan horse is now on that device. Well, what we can do is as soon as that's detected, that device actually goes into quarantine mode. And so it's going to start locking down that device and preventing anything from spreading or being leaked. So let's take a look at these in a little bit more detail here. Mobile device management. So here we can set up things like settings, we can do restrictions, we can do inventory management, device tracking. We can also remotely control that device. We can wipe it. We can also send notifications out to that device, etc. In terms of that mobile application management, like I mentioned earlier, whether it's in-house developed or public apps, you can get those apps in your app management tool and decide which devices you want those apps pushed out on. Because the way this works is that you have your list of devices and then you can tag your devices. Tags are simply an organizational tool for you. So for example, you can tag based on department. Maybe you have these 10 devices are tagged as accounting, these 10 devices are tagged as sales or marketing, etc. And then based on their group, you can push applications out to them. You also have native app containerization with Android for Work and iOS Open-In. You can also do volume purchase programs. So for example, if you purchase a bulk number of application licenses, you can manage that in Dashboard, push licenses out to devices, reclaim those licenses, and push them to new devices. For mobile content, you can set up access policies for file distribution. You can have conditional access to files, including things like copy-paste and email attachments. You can enable the shared use of mobile devices based on identity. And then you can also do per app or always on VPN control. So you have the right access levels for different types of traffic. And then mobile identity. So here, like I mentioned, this is where we're talking about the device being set up based on the type of user. But it's not just the type of user. Device context, which is what this is based on, includes things like where the device is, what time of day it is, who are you? Are you part of a tagged group? Are you on an Android or an Apple or some other type of phone? And then also, what is the health of your device? Is your device compromised in any way? And then based on these types of contextual indicators, your device is going to react in a number of different ways based on parameters that you've set in your dashboard. So really quick overview here. It's available for iOS, Android, Windows, macOS, Chrome. It's scalable from 1 to 100,000 to an infinite number of devices, whether they're all based on site or whether they're distributed globally. And they'll work on any network, including cellular. And this allows you to enable things like endpoint security as well as network policies. So at its core, just a final recap here, you're specifying what the device does, when it does it, and for whom. And that's it. You can kind of set it, forget it, and just trust that this will actually run how it's supposed to. This is a quick quote that we have from one of our customers, Brookstone, which is a large retailer in the States. And their goal is to bring their services to a higher level, to do it better, faster, and for less. And they're able to do that with the Meraki tools. All right, so let's talk about 3 quick common device scenarios, and then we're going to get into a live demo and see just exactly how this works. So we're going to take a look at pushing apps as well as BYOD devices. We're going to take a look at setting up restrictions with organization-owned devices, and then kiosk or single app application mode, and then this underlying current of security throughout. So pushing apps and BYOD. So here you're balancing personal device privacy alongside security and end-user productivity. There's no point in pushing apps and doing BYOD if it's not going to make the person more efficient and productive at the end of the day. So that is definitely an important aspect. So what are we looking at here? This is our device on the right-hand side. We're going to push out business critical applications, content, and email. We're also going to push out Wi-Fi along with certificates. This just makes sure that the Wi-Fi works a little bit better. And that's it. So here you've enabled the right applications, you've enabled the right access levels without adding any extra steps for the end users. They simply either self-enroll or you enroll the device for them, and then this is just simply done based on when you press the dashboard. So let's talk about organization-owned devices. So here you're enabling productivity, but also securing sensitive data on that device. So here we have a device on the right-hand side again. We already have some productivity applications pushed out there. So things like WebEx, Spark, AnyConnect, as well as things like an Exchange server, etc. Organization-owned devices, I can only use those approved applications that are highlighted on the left-hand side there. You're using the per app VPN again alongside those certificates. And once again, you're increasing productivity as well as securing sensitive data and traffic. Now, I want to quickly jump back here to the very first slide. Now, what you're seeing is you're seeing a personal device that when it goes into work, access to those personal features, applications, etc., are actually being removed. So you're locking this device down to only those applications that are going to be beneficial for work. Not only does this ensure productivity, but it also makes sure that things like the camera and other types of applications are not going to capture confidential information and potentially spread it. All right, the last example here is Kiosk Mode or single app mode. Now, it is what it says. It is one thing and one thing only. So here you have your device, and it has access to different applications, as you can see. But what we're going to do is we're going to select an enterprise application, so we're adding that to the device. So that's probably like a mobile point of sale system. And then we're adding things like secure Wi-Fi and or access to ensure that that application has the best possible connectivity. And then you're removing access to everything else on that device. You're actually opening up that app and locking the device to only use that app. That's it. So you might, a great example of this you might see is if you go to a shop and they're using a mobile device as a descriptor for whatever the product is. So it's having a piece of paper or card saying this product is this, these are the features, this is the cost. They're using a mobile device so that they can actually rotate out those products and they have a nice seamless feel throughout the store. Now let's talk about security. It is more than just a strong password or knowing where a device is. It's understanding what's happening on that device and who is using that device. So here we have a device on the left-hand side again, sorry, the right-hand side again. We have some personal applications, we have some work applications, we have some content that's been pushed out. We also have access to secure wireless and VPN connections with certificates. And then we start introducing content that violates the compliance of security or geofencing that we have set up on this device. So whether it's different bugs on the device, different Trojan horses, you get the idea. So now we have a potentially infected device. Well, what's going to happen automatically is we're going to suspend access to all managed applications, emails, network, content, essentially any of that shared information that we have provided. So we're locking that device down, we're quarantining it, and then this allows IT departments to go in while the information that was on that device is protected, and they can then go in and resolve whatever the issues are. All right, let's move on to a live demo now. I'm going to share my Chrome window with you. Now, before we started today's webinar, I logged into dashboard.meraki.com, and I'm taken to this overview screen after I went through two-factor authentication. I went through Google Authenticator is the one I happen to use, but you can also do other ones. And on this screen, I'm taken to an overview for the Meraki Global Network. So we have 3 main offices currently in Sydney, in San Francisco, and right here in overcast London. And what we're able to do on this screen is have an instant view into the health of our networks. So here in Australia and in London, things are green and they are good. In San Francisco, I'm seeing a bright red icon. That's an alert. So what I can do is zoom in here and actually dive into our San Francisco network and find out what's going on. And as I hover over these icons, I can see that sure enough, our San Francisco network is showing up as red and it's alerting. And I might want to click into that. Now, I should mention that here at Meraki, it's very normal for us to see our own global network going online, offline, healthy, unhealthy, especially at the headquarters, because that's where our research and development team sits. And they love to use our network as a test bed to try out new products, new features, new firmware updates, everything. So our networks are constantly going online, offline as they're changing things about, so this is normal. But if it's not normal for you to see a network showing up as red, it's a fantastic indication to you that you need to go check it out. Now I can click into the network right here, or I can expand out this network view here. Now we're seeing 54 networks within our larger organization, and I can see all of them in this drop-down menu here. So it's a really good ability to see exactly what's happening on a global level. And I can also see the network health here on a per network basis. Now let's go ahead and click in. As I said earlier today, I'm going to click into our San Francisco network. So I'm sitting here in London, despite the accent, and we're going to click into San Francisco to see some of the devices that we have installed there. Now when I click into this network, I'm taken to an overview screen, and this is an overview screen for our network. So we're able to see wireless devices coming through from our switch or security appliance, etc. in this list. I'm not going to spend too much time here because that's not what we're talking about today, but I do want to highlight that this is a very useful list when you're diving in because it allows you to see bandwidth usage over the last day or any other time period that you might want. It allows you to see all the different client devices that are connecting to your network and then search very quickly on things like a printer, narrow that down to 20 devices, or even a particular user, for example. And you also are able to then see all the applications that are contributing to that overall bandwidth usage, and then sort this based on usage and see top applications like WebEx, YouTube, etc. So a quick little plug there. Let's now move over here to System Manager. Now on this sidebar here, this is our navigation bar. So at the top here, we have the network that we're currently working on, and you can see the other 54 networks in this list. So it's very easy for me to search for them or navigate through quickly. And then you have network-wide options, you have organization options, and then you have the different product lines. So if you only had Systems Manager, for example, you would see network-wide, Systems Manager, and organization. You wouldn't see these other ones available here. But this is what we're calling a combined view. This is the ability to see and manage your entire IT infrastructure from one single centralized dashboard. So again, I'm sitting on nearly the other side of the world, and I can manage my entire IT infrastructure in San Francisco from right here in London. All right, so let's dive into System Manager. So I'm going to hover over here, and the first thing I'm going to do is click on Monitor and Clients. Now, this client overview page is a little bit different from what we just saw on the previous page. These are only clients that have Systems Manager installed on them. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a profile that simply runs in the background of the device. And we can see here Android devices, Apple devices. If we scroll down long enough, there's going to be some Windows devices, etc., Chrome. I can also search on a device type. So for example, I can type in iPad and see the 30 matches that we have. And I can then click into, for example, the London reception iPad. And then on here, I can see more information. I can see the model of the device, the serial number. If I scroll down a little bit further, we can see the charge on that device. I can also see the location on this map. So that's where we're currently located, right here in London, in Finsbury Square. I can see the operating system. And then we come down to a security section. Now, this is not going to mean too much right now, but as we go on in today's demonstration, I'm going to explain what a lot of these are. So jailbroken is a fairly obvious one. Has the device been jailbroken? Yes or no? Then we have geofencing. Is the device compliant or violating a geofence policy that we have set up? Now you're going to set up a geofence policy over here under Configure, Geofencing. And so we have a policy, and this device is compliant with it. And then we have security policies. These policies, once again, you're going to configure over here under Systems Manager, Configure, Policies. We have a whole host of policies here. And what this is doing is it's telling us that green and good tick mark means that this device is compliant with our Meraki secure policy, our BYOD policy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if for some reason this device was violating any of these policies, this would not show up as green, but it would be red with an X mark. So it'll be very obvious that a device is not compliant. So we'll get into a little bit more about how to set those up. But essentially, depending on how these are set up, we can then, and whether the device is compliant, we can then decide how the device will operate based on that information. If we scroll down a little bit further, we see kiosk application. So this device is actually locked into a single application. That's what we call kiosk mode. So down here under MDM commands, we see something called single app mode or kiosk mode. And so sure enough, we can lock the device into that one application called Envoy and then lock it, and that's easy enough to do. You can also disable that lock remotely from here. If the device is lost or stolen, you can remotely clear the passcode under mobile security, lock the device remotely, selectively wipe certain aspects of the device, or completely erase that device. So a lot of great tools there. You can also send notifications. So if you want to say something along the lines of CIT, you can send that, and it's going to show up as a pop-up notification on that device. And then further down here, we see some restrictions that are enabled on that device, as well as any particular profiles and applications that are loaded on this particular device and the event log. So a lot of really great live information in Dashboard. So let's go ahead and dive in a little bit more here. So in terms of, I want to quickly look at the summary here because we looked into one particular device, but I want to give you a high-level view of all of the different systems manager devices we have here. So this is our network summary. It's a great place to start if you just want to know generally what's going on. We can see the new clients, we can see old clients, and then down here we see top platforms, top device models, top tags that are being used, apps, operating systems, as well as top clients by disk space. So if you wanted to keep an eye on the space on a particular device, you can see that very easily on this particular graph. So this is just a high-level summary, and you can have this automatically posted up on screens, emailed out, etc. Now, I want to dive into something before we start managing all the different elements of the device, and I want to talk quickly about Apple's device enrollment program. So if you purchased an Apple device within the past few years from a registered retailer or from Apple themselves, you can actually enroll that device into Apple's device enrollment program. All you need to do is grab the serial number of that device, you add it in here, and then what it's going to do is going to show the device in this particular list, and it's going to allow you to manage that device without ever having touched the device. So this is really useful because let's take that example where a head of the company or the head of IT or whatever it is comes in on a Monday or a Friday, which might be worse, and says, "Great news, I just ordered iPads. It's going to be great. Everyone in the company gets one. They're going to be managed by the company. They're going to be company owned, and it's going to allow our employees to have a more mobile work. It's going to be great. By the way, I need you to configure these and deploy them in the next 2 days so that everyone can have them by our big kickoff midweek." Well, that's mildly terrifying because if you think about how many devices that is, okay, that's doable. Once you start getting upward of that, though, it starts snowballing a little bit. You have to unpackage every device. That takes time. You have to turn every device on and charge it to make sure it has a sufficient charge for you to do a setup. That takes time. Then you have to mirror the setup on all of those different devices. That takes time. And by the way, you have to do all of this on top of all of the other tasks that were already assigned to you. So it's a lot of work to do. Instead, what you can do is say, "Great, can I get that receipt from you, please?" And you can get a list of all the serial numbers of the devices, upload them right here into Dashboard. You've not touched those devices. They might still be on their way in shipment to your offices, but you have the serial number. You can enter it in here, and you can start configuring those devices. You can say, you know what, I want all of the backgrounds to have our company logo. I want users to not have to worry about going through that startup process on the device. I want to have each device automatically have VPN capabilities. I want these 10 applications pushed out for productivity. I want this content on those devices. And by the time you finish that and say save, it's been a handful of minutes. And now all of those devices that you have the serial numbers for are now configured. They might still be on their way in shipment to you. You might not even have touched them yet. And it allows you to actually just hand devices out to employees without unpackaging, without touching those devices. And then the employee gets that nice little unpackaging situation going on. They have that nice experience. And you still have full visibility and control over all of those devices. It's a really seamless situation here. So that's Apple's device enrollment program. It's a very long-winded way of describing it, but it's really cool. And so on this particular page, you can manage all of the different devices that are enrolled with DEP and then go on to configure all of those devices. So it's a really, really cool way of managing large deployments. Also, if you have Apple's device, or sorry, VPP, the Volume Purchase Program, you're going to use the VPP tab here. You're going to upload your spreadsheet of all different license keys. And you can manage them very easily on this particular page by app and decide, here are all the licenses that you have, here are the available ones, and then you can start pushing those applications out to certain devices. You can reclaim license keys from devices that no longer need them and push them out to other ones. So it's a really, really easy way to manage licensed applications. But what about general applications? That's something we haven't talked about yet. We've talked about getting brand new devices. We've talked about buying keys in bulk. But let's just talk about, you have a device and you want to push applications out to it. So we're going to come over here to MDM and apps. Now here what you're going to do is come over and click on Add New and click on a new iOS app. And something I just saw that I want to quickly highlight first though is that, remember when I told you that there's new features available for you sometimes? Well, that's going to come under here, under Announcements, under Help, and you have the new features option. So you can find all the new features there. Sometimes though, there's nice little images at the top, like this one, this link here that says try the new version. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to open it up in a new page. And when we click here, we see a brand new page that's opened up, and we can click on that. We might already be on the new version, to be honest. But the point is, you'll see links like that, hyperlinks at the top of the page, that allow you to try new versions of different pages. So we're constantly renovating pages and things like that based on the needs of our customers. Because at the bottom of every single page in Dashboard, there's this box here that says Make a Wish. I can click on that, and I can say, I wish this page was laid out differently. And you can actually start typing here what it is that you want from a particular page, whether it's a feature, whether it's organization. You can also attach screenshots. You can highlight portions of the page, whatever your needs are. So that is a direct line of communication between you and our engineering team. So we're able to take that information, add it to product roadmaps, etc., as needed. All right, let's get back to the applications now. All right, so we have app management. We're going to click on Add a New App. Click on, let's say, an iOS app, for example, and I can search. And it's very simple. It's just like any Google Play search, iTunes search, etc. You're going to find the app that you want. I'm just going to use this top one here, iTunes U. I can click on Add, and now I'm taken to a Managed Apps page. So here we have the app. We have a little description about what it is. I can say that I want to remove it with MDM. So, for example, if I remove the MDM profile from that device, I also want to remove this app. You can disable auto installing of this device. You can also then come up here and say, instead of installing it on every single device that we have, I actually want to only install it on some devices. So I'm going to install it only on devices that are tagged as employee. So I can type that in, and now down here we have a list of the devices that are going to receive this app when I hit save. And that's it. I click on Save Changes, and it will silently push this app out to end-user devices. It's that easy. Now, if we jump back a page here, and maybe we want to change how we're using other applications already, I can click in to that particular app and start modifying that. So it's a really simple thing to do. Stop pushing applications out to devices. That's the mobile application control. Now let's start looking at mobile device management. So this is the MDM part of EMM. And what we have done here is we're allowing you to create a lot of different profiles. As many different profiles as you need. We understand that one size does not fit all. And so I click in this tab here, and we see all of these different profiles that we've created. I'm just going to stick with the top one for now because it's easy. And what we're able to do here is see all of the different possible restrictions. So if I actually just add a brand new one, so create a new managed profile, we can click on Add Settings, and these are all the different settings that you have available. So you can add things like restrictions, so allowing or disallowing the use of camera, installing applications. You can set content filtering in there. A lot of different options. These all expand out to many, many more features and functionalities here. So a lot of great tools there. You can also require a passcode on the device, where you're not necessarily choosing it, but you're requiring others on the device to actually use a passcode. Backpack item, this is pushing content out like PDFs, e-textbooks, things like that. So that is your mobile content management. You can also set up things like automatically connecting to a certain wireless network, VPN, etc. So there's a lot of really great tools that allow you to get in here and really customize the user experience with that device. So that's MDM, mobile device management. We've talked about content, we've talked about applications, we've talked about device. Now let's move over and start talking about mobile identity. So this is the contextually aware aspect of the device. So let's start first with geofencing. We're going to come over here, and I'm just going to choose this top one, 10FS. And what this allows us to do is say, all right, this is a building. I'm going to expand that out so that while somebody is in the building, they are compliant with our geofencing rules. However, if they leave the building, if that device leaves that perimeter, I'm going to give them a grace period of, let's say, 5 minutes to come back inside. Otherwise, we can set up different alerts or different aspects to notify us. So under here, under network-wide alerts, I'm going to open this up in a separate page. This is where you can say that if a device should leave a geofenced area, so let me just come down to our systems manager. So if a client violates the geofencing policy, I want to be notified. But you can also take this one step further. So let's go ahead and come back here to snaps. And so here we're going to say that if a device should leave a certain geofenced area, we can start saying, all right, maybe Cisco Spark is important and confidential. Well, I'm going to add a scope here. So I'm going to choose a geofence rule and say anything that's violating, or sorry, other way around, if it's compliant with our geofencing, then it has this application. But as soon as it's not compliant, this application is now going to be removed from that particular device. And it's a really simple way to manage confidential information leaving a particular area on a device. The other way that you can do this is through security policies. So these are the security policies I mentioned earlier. We have different ones for BYOD, so we can start there and say that, okay, a BYOD policy, to be compliant with this policy, you need to have disk encryption, antivirus, the device must not be jailbroken, things like that. So that is a BYOD compliant device. It has to have those things. And then if you're a Meraki secure device, in addition to that, you must also have a firewall, you must have screen lock, a login, password lock, things like that. And that's to be compliant with our Meraki secure policy. Now again, we can come over here and say, in addition to geofencing, we need to have different policies set up. So I'm just going to type in policy here, and we see all the different policies in this list. So Meraki secure compliant devices, BYOD compliant devices. So in order to have this application, for example, we don't necessarily require the highest amount of security, but maybe we require BYOD compliant security. So we require things like disk encryption and antivirus, but we don't necessarily require firewall enabled. But maybe if we change apps, maybe if we go back and say, for any connect though, we do require your device to actually be compliant with our Meraki security policy. And that's already listed in there. So it's a very, very simple way to change how your device operates based on its security posture. Okay, so that's the geofencing, the different security policies. And then here we have the alerts. So we already have this set up on the other page, but you can set up alerts based on things like whether a software is installed matching a following expression, whether a client with a tag of stolen goes offline, or whatever the tag might be. You can also see whether a new client enrolls, whether a client violates a policy, etc. So there's a lot of great tools that you can build in here. And the other thing that I want to highlight is that we can do role-based administration. So if you have different network admins, they don't necessarily all need access to every single aspect of your network. Maybe some of them only need read-write access to certain parts of the network, or maybe only to view information. So you can definitely set up different read-write access levels on a network-wide permission level. And the other thing that you can do on here is something called teacher. And so here you can have different teachers in an education environment, for example, that are in charge of a group of devices that are assigned to their classroom. So that means that as an IT team, you can generally set up the devices and the network, and then you can actually hand permissions over to the teacher so that they can do things like push certain applications out to devices, so they can lock devices into a testing application, things like that. So it allows you to have a little bit more control over how the network is being used. All right, the last thing that I wanted to highlight here was we've talked about how it works, but how do you actually add devices to Systems Manager? Well, there's a number of different ways, and it's going to depend a little bit on what type of device it is. So here you simply choose what type of device you'd like to enroll. So I'm going to choose an Android device. That's the one I have right now. Then what you can do is say, I want to go to a sign-up URL and get the sign-up URL. I can also come in here and say, all right, it's a, whoops, went too far there. It's an Apple device. You can also scan a QR code. You can go to a website. So here we go. You can go to m.meraki.com. So for example, you can send an email out to your employees and say all devices must be enrolled in Systems Manager. To have access to these resources, in order to enroll, go to m.meraki.com and enter this ID. Or if you're here and you have the device with you, scan this QR code. You can also do Apple Configurator. You can also email links. The other really cool thing you can do is if you have Meraki Wireless, you can come over here under Access Control and use a splash page to have users sign on. So the way this works is we have, for example, here, a Meraki corporate SSID. So this is our main SSID here. And we can say, in order to access this particular SSID, your device must be enrolled in Systems Manager because on this SSID, you have access to confidential information. And so you can enable something called Systems Manager Sentry Enrollment. And what this does is when you try and log into this SSID from your device, it takes you to a splash page that says, hi there, you want to access this SSID, that's great. Please self-enroll your device by clicking on this button. That's it. That's as easy as it is. So there's a lot of really great ways for users to actually log in and give access to Systems Manager. All right, let's wrap up today's presentation. We have just a few more things to talk about. The licensing, as I mentioned earlier, it's all inclusive. So let me give you a quick example of how this works. I have a mobile phone. I think most people today have mobile phones, and I have a smartphone and I have an Android phone. Now, the concept remains the same on a lot of other smartphones out there, but periodically I receive an update on my phone, a notification, letting me know that I have an iOS update available. And I say, okay, do I want to update my operating system? Sure. So it loads that or installs that OS update. And when it finishes installing, I look at my phone, and physically my phone is still a phone. It hasn't magically changed into anything else. However, when I log into my phone now, I notice there are features that I've never seen before on my phone. And you can do that here with either new features with Systems Manager or pushing out applications and things like that. But anyway, the point remains, I log into my phone back into this operating system update, And there are features that I never had before that are now available to me. And then there's other features which I had which have been made better. They've been optimized. And the best part about these new features and the optimized features is that I didn't pay for it. I didn't pay anything extra for it. It was just there one day. Now, take that concept of an OS update on your phone and translate it now to Systems Manager. So again, let's say hypothetically you purchase Systems Manager today, and then next week we have some new features or new updates or whatever the case might be. You're not going to miss out. They're simply going to show up in Dashboard and be available for you to use. It's that easy. It's that simple. Now, before you run screaming the other direction, hear me out when I talk about licensing. It's more than just licensing. So the first thing here is that it's a per device profile on each device. It's also your access to Dashboard to monitor, to manage every aspect of your mobile devices without having to physically touch them. The second main thing that you get with your licensing is your support. So we have 24/7 dedicated Meraki support. So no matter what time of day or night you call, you're going to be talking to somebody in our London, San Francisco, or Sydney offices who's going to help you from beginning all the way to resolution. And then the last thing that you get are all of those new features and new firmware updates, not firmware updates on a Systems Manager, but new features and things like that that are automatically available to you at no additional cost. So it's all included there. That's all the content I had for today. I wanted to thank everybody for your time and attention and quickly talk about next steps. So next steps here, if we go back, I highly encourage you to reach out to your Meraki representative and claim the free Enterprise Mobility Management licenses for attending today's webinar. I'd also encourage you to check out our website as well as our blog, so meraki.cisco.com/blog. This is where you can find out about a lot of new features and new product updates and things like that. Also, on the front page here, you can go to Contact, and if you don't know your Meraki representative's details, you can just type in your information into this form here, and they'll reach out to you as soon as possible, usually within the day or a couple days at most. And so we'll get back to you as soon as we can to answer any questions you might have. So once again, I want to thank everybody for your time and attention and the great questions that were asked in today's webinar. And I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of your day.